Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to see Pandas. Pandas is a Python library which is used for data analysis and manipulation built on NumPy. It provides two main data structures, namely series and data frames, which allow you to clean, transform, and analyze data sets efficiently. So we have multiple file format to access we're using while working on Pandas. Example, Excel file, CSV file, JSON files too. So, and then if you are storing the data in databases like SQL databases, yeah, you can be able to access it. Yeah, we have multiple file accessing options in Pandas. Okay, so we'll look into it one by one. Okay, so in this video, we're gonna see topics like this, like what is Pandas? Yeah, we have gone through now. Installing and importing Pandas. So, like, yeah, if you're working on Jupyter Notebook, it is not like mandatory that you have to install every time. So sometimes, there will be some new updates will be there. At the time, if you're installing it, yeah, that's okay, but not every time. But the importing Pandas is a major part. Like every time you have to work on Pandas, that it is mandatory you have to import the Pandas. After that, you can able to import data sets. Based on that, you can perform data analytics or data cleaning. Yeah, it's based on the need. And Pandas data structures, as I told, series and data frames you can able to work on. And then so after importing, so after working on the data, I can able to export the data. So that thing will be covering, and then exploring data. So like what are things we are going to do with this data sets, like cleaning, or what are things which are present in the data sets. So everything you can able to know from this exploring section in chapter. Indexing and selecting. So how to select and select specific data from a cell which is stored in the Excel. So based on the indexing and selecting, you can be able to do it. And data cleaning. Data cleaning, yeah, as I told, Pandas will be used for data cleaning majorly. So yeah, so these things like what are the major columns are needed for the analytics, and what are the we do have null values or non values. So these things will be removed. If it is majorly, yeah, I can remove or I can able to replace with other values. So these things will be performed in data cleaning chapter. And data transformation, like you can able to transform data. So sometimes it will be in different data types. So you have to change into required data type. After changing it, you can perform analytics based on that. And aggregation and grouping. So yeah, bridging, joining, and concatenations, sorting, ranking. So based on the need, yeah, I'll be performing these many actions. So we'll be covering one by one. And visualization with Pandas. This is a major part we're working on Pandas. And that finally, we'll be working on real world examples. Okay. So, yeah, I hope you're clear with these chapters. So, we'll start on the one. Okay. So, installing and importing Pandas. So, this is a syntax for installing Pandas. It's like exclamation mark followed by pip install Pandas. And then after installing it, then you have to import in the sense like you have to call the pandas with the alias name. It is a mandatory you have to mention the alias name, but every time if you are using the pandas or calling the pandas, you have to mention pandas. To avoid that, simply you can give an alias name so that you can able to call with this alias name itself. Okay, so while we're looking on the example, you get to know like why it is useful more. Okay, so I already installed and imported. Okay, so now we'll get into the example. Okay, before that, we'll add some cells below so that we can perform more analytics. Uh, we'll start with the CDs. So before that, I have two file formats. One is CSV and one is Excel. So I'll in this video, I'll be covering those parts. For JSON and databases, in upcoming videos, I'll cover. So okay, so yeah, the Pandas data set is all about series and data frames, as I mentioned before. Okay. Okay. PD dot. For the series part, like yeah, series is all about will be all having a single list entries. So only with the index part you can able to add. Other than that, we'll have only one list will be. So as we covered in NumPy, you came to know about list or array. So this part will be majorly used in CDs. I mean in the pandas. Okay. I'll be using arrays here. Okay. Mentioning the index. Okay. So that this is syntax, like you have to mention the PD. Yeah, as I told before, you have to mention this alias name while using the pandas. PD dot series. Okay, I'll starting series now. Series, I've taken array 1, 2, 3, 4 for the index of 0, 1, 2, 3. So this will be the index. Like 0 will be the index for 1 and 1 for 2, likewise. Okay, so while showing the output, you can able to know more about it. See, so this is how this index will be there and entries will be there. The single series. Okay, so this data type which is mentioned here shows the data type of this column. Okay, so this is how a series will be used. Okay, sometimes if you want to add a separate column for a data frame, at the time you can go for this series and able to import specific columns separately based on the condition into the data frame. So you can perform the actions like that. Now we'll cover data frame. Same with PD dot data frame. Now we have to mention the column name. As I mentioned before, we have to mention this array here. Product name. Price for the products. Okay. Yeah. So before using it, actually, we are using only single column, only single column. But here we are using multiple columns, right? So in that case, also we have given the column name also. So it is mentioned as a dictionary type. So if you are using a dictionary type, then you have to mention the query basis, right? Okay. Now if you're calling the data frame, yeah. So this is how we have to use CEs and data frames in pandas. So that's it. Now we'll get into importing and exporting data. Okay. So as I told, I will be covering CSV in Excel formats. I'll start with CSV now. So using, importing option in Pandas, we have to start with ed dot read CSV. Okay. Then we have to mention the file name. CSV file dot CSV. See, this is a data set. Also, I've saved the same CSV file in Excel format. So you can able to call that to just in the insert cells below. Now if the column is Excel, so it is not the same. Like data will be the same, but the file format is different. For your understanding, I'm mentioning it because I've called this read CSV. This is syntax. You're not supposed to change this. If you're changing this, I mean, if you need to call Excel, then read Excel. So this is how you have to mention. So if you're mentioning read Excel and then if you're mentioning CSV in the brackets, so it won't callable. Okay, it has to be in Excel form. Okay, Excel is X. So this is the file form. Okay, see, same data will be there, but the file format is different. For understanding, I'm saving same file, same data into different file forms. One is CSV, another one is Excel. Okay, we can able to perform some the functions too. If you want to see only top five columns, sorry, top five rows, you have to mention the head. See? Yeah. So this is how the importing and exporting data. Sorry, importing part is covered. Now we'll get into the exporting part. Now, okay. Now, for exporting part, we have to mention Excel equal to. I'll do this for Excel first. The same, but the file name you have to mention. That's it. Okay. df dot CSV. Then you have to mention the sorry, Excel. Now you have to mention the file. Okay, instead of mentioning the same name, I'll say different file name. Okay, that's it. Okay. So this is how you have to save the save the file. Okay. If it is CSV, then let us change it to CSV. Okay, that's it. Yeah, sending variable that don't be a matter, but the file format, I mean saving format as well as the calling function has to be same. CSV. Okay. So this is how we have to import and export data. Now we'll get into exploring data sets. Okay, so I'll simply select this CSV alone for the exploring part. See? Yeah, I've taken the data set in CSV format. Okay. Now to know the shape, actually, if you are not mentioning the data which are head, you can able to see the shape of the data set. After sometimes, if you are working with the data, sometimes you get to know what is the shape of the data, shape of the data sets. At that time, if you are using shape, you can able to see the exact shape, like outcome, like after transforming, after performing enough cleaning and everything. Instead of viewing this, this or calling the DF, you can directly call the shape so that you can able to see the shape. Okay, here's here. Uh, okay, what's the name? So the same here. Yeah, 545. Yeah, one thing. So this is the shape of the data set. Okay. So this is how we can able to see the shape of the data set. And now if you want to know more about the column data sets. Here we have a price, right? So these are the values. Like this, we have values and we have a strings or objects, whatever. So based on the data type, we have to know from the column base. So if you need to know more about that, then you have to go with info. See, trace, not non-null. Non-null values. We have all the entries here. And see, integer, object. Main node is object. Okay, see main node, yes. So it is an object. Okay. Yeah. So, and then you want to know more about values. Based on the values, if you want to know more about standard deviation, variance, mean, median. So, not the median, but mean, and what are the things which are major, 25% or 50%. Everything you can able to know more about using describe. If you're using describe, yeah. See, you can able to see only the integer of what information being presented here. See, price, area, bedrooms, bathrooms, stories. See, and after that you have parking. So others are objects. Objects will be shown in the display. Okay. Then we have to, if you want to know, if you have any doubt on what are the data types majorly, here you have gone through the information about the data set, like total 13 columns and 545 entries, 0 to 544. I mean, these are the index. Start from 0 and to 544. Based on that, the entries are 544. Okay. And data type integer, object 7. So memory used or 55 KB. So these are the informations. But if you only want to know about the data types, to mention data types. See, only data types you can able to see. Then, if you want to know, as I told before, it is mentioned non-null. Sometimes if you, if it is facing an issue, so you need to know more about specifically on the column, is there any null? In that case, you have to mention this null. Then dot sum. So that's this dot sum will sum the informations. Sometimes if we have null in column and we have another column. So based on that, it will be summing all the null values and then it will show a total of total based on the column. Okay. See, we don't have any null. If you want to know more about NaN, you see dot sum. So we don't have any NaN values. And yeah. So this is how we'll be performing the exploration part in data set. To explore more about the data. Before starting the analytics part, you have to get to know more about the data set first. Because it is a it will be a random guess. Sometimes if you're cleaning directly without without knowing more about the data set, if you're directly doing the data cleaning or data transformation part, so it will lead to issues in the data set. So it will be removing the most important things from the data set. It may vice versa. So to avoid that, at first you have to understand the data set. After knowing more about the data set, which are the things that are majorly needed, then you can start sketching on like how to start with the cleaning from which column which are majorly needed or not. So based on that, you can able to remove whatever it is. Okay. So yeah, try to understand the data first and then start the analytics. Okay. Now index and select. In the previous video, I already covered NumPy, and people who haven't watched it, so please watch it so that you'll have an understanding about this indexing and selecting. I've covered enough. I covered those topics in the enough example, the last video. Try to watch it. So here in the indexing, what we'll do? So we'll be calling the column. Sorry, we'll be calling the data set name, and then we'll mention the column. For example, I want to know what area or head. In the mandate you have to mention head, you can simply call the column name. Yeah, or head. can see the 5 entries. For example, if you want to know or if you want to see the outputs of selected columns, the first 5 columns or the first 2 columns, area is price. Then what you have to do? You have to mention both the column names, and then you have to open another bracket. Okay, because we have been called, yeah, in the previous number I have mentioned about 2 dimensional, right? 1 dimension and 2 dimension. So this 2 dimensional part will be using 2 brackets. Okay, same thing I'm following here. So to view the 2 dimensional interface. See, so this is how the indexing and this is how selecting and will be useful, and the indexing part dear dot I location. So based on the index, here index is 0. Okay, so the index is 0. So if you want to know the entries of 0, mention 0 here. See, 13. Okay, 133. Yeah, 133 here. And 7420. Other entries are from other columns. This entries will be here total because I mentioned only DF. Okay. Sometimes if I'm calling in this way, so this is how indexing and selecting codes. Okay. If without mentioning the index, I've tried with the indexing column. So if you want to call with the location, then you have to mention df dot location 0. See? Okay. Now we'll start with the column wise. Okay. As I told before, if you want to know columns based on the selection. So here, see here. So here the maximum price is 114K. So we'll be mentioning those filtering. What we have to mention? We have to mention the column name first. Column price. So which is great to then any four, right? 114. Then you have to mention the data frame name, because this filtering thing has to be done within the data set itself, data frame. So this data frame itself, so that in calling the data frame inside and mention the condition. Based on this condition, the output will be there. Okay. See, get the. If I mention the same entry here, equal to, see, the only entry will be there. So this is how we'll be performing indexing and selecting. Okay. Now we'll go with the data cleaning. Just I'm coming to major examples, because these are the things that are majorly used on Pandas. Okay, if you are familiarizing these concepts, so you can able to do the data cleaning, data transformation, whatever it is based on the data set. At first, we'll be majorly working on these things. Only then, based on the data sets or based on the data, so we'll be performing some advanced Pandas topics. Okay. So in the upcoming videos, I'll cover some advanced topics like how to use on Pandas. So that you'll have a better understanding how to use the data analytics in some advanced concept using Pandas. Okay. So in data cleaning process, what I'll do, see, like we have a lowercase column. What I'll do, I'll change the column. It to different column. Okay. df dot rename. We are able to rename the columns. You have to mention the price. price. Now, if you are mentioning or calling the column, sorry, data frame, yeah, here you can't able to see the change. Why? Because they haven't mentioned the in place. In place is the major thing which we need to mention in the condition, because this in place will affect directly on the data set. Sorry, not data sets, directly affect on the main data frame. Okay, I'll show you. Okay. So now I have mentioned the true. What does it? What does it mean? So I have to change the price, the column name which is in lower case to capitalizing. So I'll capitalize the first letter with the price. Okay, this has to be implemented on the data frame itself directly. You can calling the data frame again. It should be in the capital. So for that case, I'm mentioning true. In place, it has to be true. Okay. See, let's change it now. Okay. So this is how for every performance, like if you want to perform any function on the some transformation on the data set, you have to use in place equal to true. Only then it will be affected directly on the data frame. If you are simply mentioning the change alone, and then if you're calling the data frame, it will be the same as before. It won't change. For the changing purpose, we have to use this in place. Okay. Then yeah, create dot drop. If you want to drop a column based on the index, you need to drop column of 0. Okay. Okay. So dot drop comma axis equal to 0. Why I'm mentioning axis equal to 0? Why? Because I mentioned here for the command we'll be using hash symbol. Okay. So the axis equal to 0. This mentioning as row. Okay. Axis equal to 1 means it is column. Okay. Here I mentioned the axis. See. Now I'll mention the in place so that I can able to see the change. Okay. Right. Just for learning purpose, I'm not gonna perform any project here. So for the learning purpose, I'm removing the columns or rows. Okay. See, at first we have 133K. Here we do have only the 122K. Okay. So this is how we'll be performing the drop using indexing. Okay. In some cases, if you want to remove the column itself, you have to mention the axis equal to 1. So mentioning that, so this column alone will be removed from the data frame. Okay. I hope you clear this example. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll mention the column name itself. df dot top. To mention the column name, what you have to do? You have to mention it in the square bracket. So okay, before that, sometimes if you are stuck in here, like you have to go there and you have to set the column. To avoid that, mention columns. Okay, drop. So things which are not needed majorly, preference area and basement. I'll take these two. Okay. So mentioned here, then we have to mention the axis. Axis equal to 1 in place. True. Now what will happen? So I mentioned axis 1. Axis 1 is all about column. So these columns will be removed. reference area and basement. Okay. See, for a change, I'll mention the DF here so that you'll have an idea what are the columns are removed. See, some two were missing here, right? So I will remove the columns. So this is how we'll be doing the dropping. And then after dropping, what we'll do? Not it is not a step-by-step process. It is based on the need. So if you're working on a data set, something which are majorly need to be done first. After then, you have to perform other tasks. So it is based on the requirement. It is not mandatory. You have to follow the step-by-step process. Okay. So df dot I'll go with NaN. So yeah, some data NaN will be there in the data set sometimes. So to avoid that, I'll fill NaN as 0. Okay. So in your requirement, if you're working on the data set, there will be some other requirements like fill NaN as some special data like not specified or no entry over there. So something like that. You have to mention like that. Now we have to mention the in place. In place equal to true. Okay, that's it. So now if you are calling the df equal to 0 dot n unique. This unique is all about things like, for example, see the furnished and the semi-furnished. So these are the two uniques. Okay. Yeah, it may be repeated, but these are the things which are presented in the form at least once. Okay. So that thing we called as unique. N unique means how many times, like how many times or how many counts are there in the column. So if I'm mentioning n unique, see this 0 which are present in the column, in the parking column. Okay. So to know how many entries of this 0 means this parking of 1 which is present in the data set. To know more about that, what I'll do, at first I'll be calling the df. df equal to 0. df equal to 0. df parking equal to 0. So double nine rows of parking inputs are mentioned as 0. Okay, see these many inputs. What we are going to do? So without parking, people won't use the. I mean, won't join the. Sorry, sorry. So this is housing data, right? So people won't come for rent or lease if there is no parking in the house. Okay. To avoid that, I will remove those data. Okay, df of parking equal to 0. Now call the df here. Now what we have to do? df dot drop in the open bracket dot index. Why? Because this index has to be called from these columns. Okay. In this column, it will be called for the entire rows. And then if you are calling the in place, it will be true. In that case, you can mention, as we mentioned previously, the axis equal to 1. By mentioning only the axis alone, only this column will be removed. So remove all other 15 columns also. Then you have to mention the indexes. You mention dot index. So all other columns which are depending on this 0 entry, so will be selected. And if you are mention the in place equal to true, this will be changed. Okay. Before that, I'll show the shape of the data set. Here, 544, 11. Okay. After changing these, df dot shape. See, 545. So these many entries, like 300 entries were removed. Not entry, like 299. So now it is changed to 245. So these are the entries which don't have parking equal to 0. Okay. I hope you are clear with this example. Now, again, if you're calling this one, that will have understanding. Is there any data again? See, we don't have any data. Okay. Now, df dot drop name sum. Okay. Okay. Df dot drop name in place equal to true. So these are some major tricks to avoid any drop name feature. Okay. And then, yeah. So these are entries which are after after replacing the NaN with 0 and then removing from the data set, and these are the shape. This is the shape of the data set. Okay, now it is clean almost. Okay, now what we are going to do here is df dot drop duplicates. We do have some duplicates in the data sets. Okay, duplicate in the sense sometimes. So the same entry without any change, just duplicated again. So those entries will be removed, not only in the select specific column row. It is for entire row. Entire row without any change, if it is duplicated, then it will be removed. Okay, in place equal to true. Okay, it is removed. Now, if you are on the info, to check whether any change will be there after performing these many operations. Okay, yeah. Now, for change, what I'll do to show your sorry. Okay, to change the differences. Okay, change of differences will be there. For that thing, what I'll do, I'll select one specific column and I'll change the data type. For that, whether it is changing or not in the info. To check that, I'm doing this. Okay, df dot as type float. Now, if you are calling df dot info, see, I've changed the stories, this integer to float. See, float is there. Okay, this is how you have to change the data type. So it is like you can't just simply change the object. Sometimes in the data, what we'll do, we'll be storing the values in a string form to avoid some changes in the later stage. They'll be changing to fixed decimals. To avoid that, they'll be mentioned. To avoid any change in the data set, they'll be storing those data in string form. That means the object. So those data we can able to change into integer. That won't be affected. But if you are having the value, string itself, like the semi-finished, finished, these data, like these data without any values there, if you are changing this to integer, this will majorly affect. Okay. So check on the data set first, whether how it is needed, like how it is needed in future data transformation. Based on that, you can able to change. Okay. Now, yeah. Now we'll get into data transformation. Okay. So these other chapters will be covering in the next video. Okay, I'll complete with the data transformation. Okay. Okay. The data transformation part, what I'll do, I'll be performing same operation in two different ways. Okay, so that we'll have a better understanding. So either way you can able to perform. Okay. The data transformation part, what I'll do, I'll be adding some additional columns based on the some filters or based on some conditions. Okay. At first, I'll go with this area. So area. So area plus 5. Now this has to be assigned to the same column. Okay. For the change, change the column name to 5, area 4. See, 965. Now it is changed to 17. Okay. The same, change you can able to perform another way. Okay. I'll change this. I'll set the same column. Okay. Now I want to apply. So apply change to this column. Without applying, I'll use lambda here. Lambda is the easiest format to perform some operations. Okay. What I'll do, this lambda will select the data from this column. I'll be applying it. So based on the applying, we'll be selecting data from the column, and then we'll be doing the function. What I'll do, so I'll be adding the 5. Okay, lambda x. So this is the data which is selected from the area column, and then the same data will be added with 5. That's it. The column yet. Okay, what change will be happened here? So this area 5. For a change, I'll add 15 here. See, see, I've added 15 with 65. Now it is 80. Okay, so this is how I can perform some operations. Yeah, you can able to do multiplication here. The same thing which we can able to perform here also. So some complicated data, you can able to perform in the lambda way. So easy thing like suddenly if you want to change or it isn't mandatory for checking purpose, then you can go with this. I won't say like this is not a good thing to perform. Yeah, you can go with either way. Okay. In next, what I'll do, I'll change the. Okay, what I'll do, okay, yeah. Here we have furnished, right? Just in lowercase. I'll change the case there. DF, select the column name, and then we'll call the same column name. So this thing is to mention in the column name. Okay. So I think we throw an error. Okay. Yeah. Object, right? So I have to mention the string here. What is an object? You have to mention str, that is string, and then you have to mention the upper, it will be reflected. See? Then you can able to change the other things like capitalize. So this is how we'll be doing the change of cases. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll be selecting the column name first. Why? Because see like air condition, right? So air condition, which is majorly needed for people to go for a rent or lease in a house. Okay, this is major thing. Or this hot water heating. This is also a major thing. Okay, what I'll do, I need to know how many houses which have hot water heating. Okay, inbuilt to it. To know about that, what I'll do, hot water heating dot yeah dot, because it is an object, right? Contains yes. So you have to mention the same is. If it is in lowercase, then you have to mention lowercase. Okay. And then okay. So this is a filter, right? So we have to mention within the data frame name itself. Okay. Then we have to close this in dot value comes dot sum. See 17. 17 will be there. Okay. You want to know about air conditioning? 95. So 95 houses have air conditioning. Okay. So this is how you can able to perform the data transformation. So I didn't do any transformation here. So but based on this, you can able to transfer. So sometimes if it is yes, then we have to change the area or a price. We able to increase the price or a bedroom. So based on that, you can able to change and be able to perform. For that thing I mentioned it. Okay. I hope you have some better understanding about pandas, how it is useful in data analytics. So in upcoming videos, I'll cover the remaining chapters. I'll start with the aggregation to real world examples. In next video, I'll be covering these chapters. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can drop down in the comment section. So based on that, I'll do other videos in upcoming sessions. Okay. 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 Thank you. Bye.